Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and you are joining us today for another episode of Crime Writers of Canada's podcast. Joining me today is Raye Anderson. Hi, Raye. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good too. Thank you.
Good.
Raye is nominated for the Best Whodunit Award for Best Traditional Mystery, sponsored by Jane Doe, for her novel, The Dead Shall Inherit. Uh, a little bit about her. Raye Anderson is a Scots Canadian who taught drama and ran theater and community arts programs for many years, notably in the Prairie Theatre Exchange in Winnipeg, in Ottawa and Calgary. Raye has been a resident of the Interlake since 2007 and presently lives in Gimli. Her first crime fiction novel, And We Shall Have Snow, was published by Signature Editions in 2020. It was a finalist for the Best First Novel for the Crime Writers of Canada Awards of Excellence, and was also shortlisted for the original softcover fiction category of the WILLA Literary Awards. The second book in this series, which features Sergeant Roxanne Calloway of the RCMP, occurs mostly in Winnipeg in a fictional theater company. Titled And Then Is Heard No More, is published in 2021 and was the Winnipeg Free Press McNally Robinson Book Club pick for July-August of 2022. Raye returned to the Interlake at the setting for the third and fourth books in the series, Down Comes the Rain in 2022 and Sing a Song of Summer in July of 2023. If you're a fan of this show, you would have known that earlier we interviewed her for Sing a Song of Summer. The Dead Shall Inherit, which was published in September of 2024, is the first in a new series. So because it's a new series and you introduce us to a new protagonist, what can you tell us about Elspeth?
Elspeth is Canadian, but she was born in Scotland, like my daughter. So she came over here when she was about 2 years old. Mainly grew up in Winnipeg, went into theatre, became a stage designer, and has lived and worked as a stage designer, and is very surprised to discover that her Scottish aunt, Deirdre MacPhail, has left her a house on an island, a fictional island, called Sola, which is in the Scottish Hebrides. So Elspeth's kind of broke. She's come through. She's come through the pandemic wasn't kind to theatre artists. So she's had very little work lately, and she and her husband have been cooped up and driving each other crazy for the last 2 years. And she decides to go over and check out the house, and that's where things start to happen.
You didn't directly say her age in the story that I've read so far, but she sees somebody, she meets somebody, and says he seems to be the same age as me, late 40s. If I'm guessing right, that is about 20 years older than the average protagonist nowadays. Uh, is there a reason why you wanted to make her mid to late 40s as opposed to 30s, which is the norm?
Yeah, I wanted her to have. It's kind of an age that I'm familiar with. I mean, I didn't want to have an old protagonist, so I have to move out of my own age group. So I wanted to go to one that I'm familiar with, and I have two daughters who are about that age. They're into their 50s now, but so I'm familiar with that, and I'm familiar with how they grew up, and I'm familiar with their friends and what their lifestyle was like. So it was easier for me to actually connect with that age group.
I'd say too, being pretty close to that age group, it's an interesting turning point in life too, because you're starting to question your choices in life. Would you say she's doing the same?
She is absolutely there. I mean, she's really questioning. I mean, her career is really not. It looks like it's dried up on her. She's always lived kind of the way theater artists do. They bop around from place to place. You know, they're kind of gypsies. They show up in the town. They do a gig for about 6 weeks at best, 3 weeks usually, and then they're back out again. Um, So she's been used to moving around a lot and she's been parked. I mean, it really is a post-pandemic book that way because she's been parked for the last year, 2 years, and that's an unfamiliar situation for her. So she's not quite sure where she's at. She's kind of, it's like everything is showing that she has a need for change, but she hasn't quite decided what that is. So when this thing happens, when suddenly she owns a house in Scotland, um, it's a good chance to check out something else and go see and have another bit of an adventure. Because you have to be a bit of an adventure to live that kind of lifestyle, I think.
Definitely, and she seems to embrace it. Like her trip there wasn't easy, but
Yeah.
she took it in stride, let's say. Um, this comment's going to sound a little vile, but but we're going to keep it like this is very specifically for crime fiction. But I love it when older people die because, especially in what could be a natural way. In real life, if we heard a senior citizen was living alone and tripped on a rug and toppled down the stairs, we would say it was tragic, but we wouldn't automatically assume murder. Being a reader of fiction, crime fiction, all crime fiction readers go, ah, obviously that's a murder. Do you feel the same way, or can it actually be an accidental death?
Yes, it could be an accidental death, and that question's always there right through the book. You never really know. And But it was great to be able to do that because Elspeth in my age bracket, which meant I could play with both age groups. I mean, and so I'm writing about Edinburgh around the time that I've been there and been around. So it took me kind of a little bit onto my home turf. It took me onto kind of things that I'm really very familiar with. And it
Um,
and a lot of the stories to do with what happened to Elspeth and around Elspeth. And I lived on a Hebridean island for a couple of years when I was how old? Well, 30, 29, 30.
mhm.
So it meant that I could write about that place at that time. So yeah, it worked that way for me. Yeah.
At the beginning of the story, at one point you mentioned that Deirdre is on a panel, and the panel is Scotland are writing Scotland's landscape.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
Now, I can't speak for every reader, but to me, I thought to myself, Ray better do a great job describing Scotland's landscape now. I'll also admit to you, I dislike writing landscape. Um, I often skip over it when other people are writing about it, but I found yours beautiful. So could you give us any advice about writing landscape? Doesn't have to be Scotland's, any landscape.
You
Because you did a
know,
good job in your other book too.
it's really funny, because I mean, my background's theatre, and I'd always written play script before this. So it's and in play script you're writing dialogue all the time, so you're not writing landscape. And when I started writing about the Interlake, um, I suddenly discovered that I really liked describing the place mattered, and that I needed to make sure I got it right, and that and slowly the the weather became important. Uh, the way things looked, the way things felt. Um, the landscape kind of became part of the story. So it stuck with me. And I deliberately chose the island because it gave me the chance to describe something that's really unique. And I also, and it's interesting that they're both in both series, it's a landscape that is very, very beautiful and very attractive, but also extremely dangerous. Um, uh, Scylla is, those islands are all windswept. I mean, there's not a tree grows on them. They're barren, they're bleak, they're rocky. Um, they're, you can get hurricane force winds coming in off the Atlantic. There's days when um, you can't get off the island because the weather's so bad. So and the Interlake has big winters, right? And
Mhm.
right now forest fires. I mean, so that sense of danger lends itself well to crime fiction, right? So you have that sense of things being kind of very comfortable, and then wham, things go wrong, and it's reflected in the landscape.
Yeah, it gives a sense of beauty and danger
Yeah,
at the same time, and so does your writing. Like so does the description of it. It's
that's what I tried to do, Eric.
well, you do a great job. Like, I would not say this to every author, but I love your prose.
Thanks.
It's not, I don't want to say complicated, but it's not like making me read it twice to figure out what's going on. But at the same time, like I said, I tend to skip landscape descriptions and I read every word of yours.
Thank you. That's really nice to know.
Um, Actually, I'll ask you this question. You were a guest before, as I mentioned, on the podcast. Um, and I told you also prior, your podcast is like our third most listened to episode. And that one, we were talking about Roxanne Calloway's Mysteries, book 4 in the series. Now that you're starting a new series, are you going to revisit your old one?
Roxanne Five's coming out in September.
Oh, good to hear.
It's called Had a Great Fall. So it was, I did 4 books, all kind of, they were all the seasons, except
Mhm.
that the fall one took place in Winnipeg. It was the second book. And I thought, okay, let's do a fall one set here. And it was really interesting. I mean, I needed to take a break from, I think this whole business of writing a series is really interesting because basically you develop this cast of characters and you keep going and it's like an ongoing story. But uh, you can I kind of think you can find yourself spinning your wheels a bit after a while. It becomes, it can maybe become a bit formulaic. And I also began to wonder if I was stuck there, if that was all I could write. Just me and Roxanne. So I wanted to have a go at something else, and I'd always kind of wanted to revisit Scotland in my head. So I just decided to have a go at it, and yeah, and it seems to have worked. So that's good.
Well, at least 3 judges agree that it worked. So that's always a good sign.
That's always a good sign. It's actually really good. It's received a lot of good feedback. I mean, there's a lot of people who said that they like this one, and it was actually a bit of a risk. I mean, and I know that we had some conversations about it, me and my publisher, about is it a good idea, because the Roxanne books were developing a bit of a following, and people want to know what's going to happen next. They want the next book, right?
Mhm.
And, but I'm not sure that following what I mean, you want your readers to be happy, but I don't know that you should ignore the little voice at the back of your head that's saying it's trying to try something else. So stepping aside for a while was actually really good for me, because when I went back to Roxanne, it was kind of, "Hi, I'm back, guys," and we went off road the next week. Right, it was good fun. It was really good to get back to them. So now it's great, because I mean I seem to be in a pattern of doing 1 book a year, and it means that I'm alternating. So I've gone from Elspeth to Roxanne, and now I'm back writing Elspeth again, and it means I can keep the story straight in my head, because when you're writing that fast, it's yeah, you have to kind of remember which book you're in.
Yeah, it's true.
And
Like
here
the
I am talking to you about the book that I wrote years ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sometimes tough to keep everything like which book happened did it. Vicky Delaney, God bless her, she writes like 4 books a year from 4 different series. I don't know how
I don't know how you do that.
her brain could juggle that.
Yeah,
Kudos to her.
yeah, you bet.
Definitely kudos to you. If anybody was a fan of Roxanne and they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get into this new series, I would highly recommend you do.
That's great. Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations again, Ray.
Thanks.
I tell everyone I don't know the winners, so I'm honestly wishing you good luck.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for talking.